This is
about a girl. Her name is Amy. Some call her Ave. This is a story about a girl, and she's part of the plan of God. And nothing can ever separate her from it. She's got bravery. She's not afraid. She's not afraid of what people think. And nothing, her story is. We have done a good research and we're reading the Bible, baby. We continue with Luke. And I'm very pleased, girls. I know, girls, you have been doing good. And we will continue. Oh, wow. I'm happy. We are doing good things. I remember about talking about Laura, talking about the other guy, talking about the bald guy. Ooh, I'm happy. Amy, don't call Mr. Steve that way. Steve Freeman. He's a good guy. I'm going to later introduce you girls to him. Okay, girls. Okay, I'm happy. You girls. Continue now with Luke chapter 16, verse 1 to 14. And sometimes it's something important. We talk about the servants. Here we hear how Jesus talks about a servant here, that he served a master, and the master realized he did bad management. But here's something important, Amy. This is some of those things that in the Bible we're going to learn life skills. And sometimes you're going to be working, in a store, in a factory. I knew another brother, which I will not name. And he worked for some company, and he was working for a long time. He was doing something for a grocery store, something like that. And he made mistakes. And sometimes in the real life, he tried to, survive. And he went to many stores, and he learned from his lessons. But it's something to be sometimes shrewd like snakes, like Jesus says, when we're talking in the other verses. And to be a servant of God. But sometimes, we have to be, even though in our mistakes, we have to be still a servant of God. And survive sometimes those problems. And what he did is that he learned from those lessons. He went about in his life asking for favors and above all, trying other options. But he was a good guy. And sometimes he learned it from this verse here. And it continues that to act shrewdly and to be a servant that is wise there, A.B. And sometimes maybe Christians will be put in that way when they have to manage sometimes the work, and sometimes by mistakes, by something happens, he will sometimes even lose his job or have a problem, and he has to be shrewd and ask favors, ask help. And above all, even though it tells us how to do some things about practicing life problems and life skills, A.B., the whole thing also tells us that we also have to be vigilant and to be serving God and not having two masters but have one. And even though it will seem that it contradicts, maybe especially Jesus explains us that we have to be wise, shrewd, always shrewd management, that we have to be serving Jesus above all and serving God above all things, and to have that type of faithfulness of the teachings of the Bible of Jesus that we see here applied. Jesus telling them how this man was shrewd, how he was intelligent, because one, he served his master, but he looked for an alternative, and he didn't, lose what he was learning and being what he was doing, a servant. And Jesus tells us as an example of being a servant of God about having not two masters. And even though he was under pressure, he didn't lose it or become an evil servant that will just try to sell all the other things from his master or try to do wrong to his master. He went to look for an alternative, and he kept being the servant that Jesus wants us to be, that still, even though those problems happen in real life, not to lose it or not to stop believing in Jesus, stop being his servant, even those things will happen to us, maybe, will happen to all of us. And be always a servant that will do those things in real life of being a manager or being helping someone else in a store and being a worker there and still be the good person and be following the good teachings that Jesus gave and doing those things still is how we will be still loyal. We will still be loyal to God and still faithful to Him and use those teachings in the Bible when we do work or when we do business, and not to be a servant that will fall away or be a servant that will do wrong to his master. Continues to be a servant that will survive, but above all will be shrewd and still have those teachings that he learns from the Bible, still have those teachings he learns from God, that he serves his master, and learn the things from the Bible and apply them and still be faithful to his master and not the world, not to business. That's something important, maybe, to keep ourselves still, keep our integrity, and above all be wise like that butler, because those things will happen to us in real life, baby. Next, Luke chapter 16, verse 19 to 31. The rich and Lazarus. Hope. For when a man that heard Jesus explain Lazarus being a poor man, he will be saved. Rich man had his riches. The reality of it all is that when you have richness, like this man who had riches, he fell, and even though he paid punishment for being a man who wasn't wise with his richness, Lazarus was saved for being a man who was poor, a beggar, but still he was a servant of the Lord. And it's important, maybe, something that even though we have hard times, maybe, we still be servants of the Lord, maybe. Like Lazarus and like the butler. Next, Luke chapter 17, 1 to 10. Do not make others stumble. It's something important for women and men to do, and maybe sometimes we have to be wise, maybe not to make others stumble, judging or doing something to trap people or doing some bad things that we do to others. And I know, girls, you have your own experience with them, and it happens, maybe, but it's something we must avoid because we wish others to enter the kingdom of heaven. We must do everything to help the others try to enter the kingdom of heaven by not judging and doing wrong to them, of putting traps. Next, Luke chapter 17, verse 20 to 37. The coming of the kingdom. Here we talk about again Jesus explaining the Bible of his kingdom. And it's important, maybe, that we always remember that kingdom is something spiritual. And Jesus' kingdom is something hard for all of us, but he gives it to all of us, to all those who listen to what his teachings say and what the Bible says. Next, Luke chapter 18, verse 9 to 14. The Pharisees and the tax collector. It's a lesson about being humble, baby. Here, the tax collector and the Pharisee proclaimed he was good, and he was thankful not to be like the tax collector. But the tax collector was humble, and he asked God for forgiveness, being humble. And something that Jesus says, must be humble like the tax collector. Next, we go to Luke chapter 18, verse 15 to 17. To be a child, says Jesus, and maybe this is important, that we are all supposed to be, like Jesus says, children, and to act like them. And it's hard because when we get old, we lose that way, and we don't remember no more. But it's something that Jesus wants us to try to be, maybe. And it's a good thing, maybe, and it's a good thing. Something for all of us to do, woman and man. Oh, wow. I totally agree about you. About the rich and Lazarus. Something very important to do. And about... Oh, hiya. The Pharisees and the tax collector are something important. Being a child again, or to be like a child, it's something hard. Because it's something we are not taught in this world. The world teaches us to be adults, to serve money and to serve the system. I don't like it. It's hard for us to be a child. I'm still young and being a child. And still we're young girls. I'm near 17 years old. And it's hard for us, Bao. I know, girls, I know. It's something hard to be a child. It's something hard to be a servant in this world and to be shrewd like snakes and innocent like doves. And we have to be worried I know, girls, but it's something that God does give us, that we can be like children and receive the kingdom of heaven and be like in the kingdom of heaven like those children. And something important, and also not to make others stumble, but it's something important, Abby, and we're doing a good job. I'll talk to you girls later. Okay, Abby. Oh, also, I forgot, girls. I'm gonna talk to you about Ryan. I have a friend. Ryan's a good man. I'm gonna tell you later. I'm gonna introduce to you girls. He's a good guy. He used to be in the army. He did a good time, and the guy, he was always looking to be the best. Girl, I'm gonna tell you because he's an important person. He came to the church. I told him many things of the Bible. He started to serve the Lord. Something very good, Abby. Something good. And I'm gonna tell you about his life later. You're gonna meet him, girls. Okay, I'll talk to you later, girls. I love you. Take care. Ciao.